Welcome to the Stop Dieting podcast, hosted by best-selling, award-winning author and renowned weight loss expert, David Medansky. If you struggle to lose weight or you've lost weight and gained it back, you'll want to listen each week. Each week, you will learn tips for healthy weight loss without going on a diet, without having to follow an exercise program, without counting calories, or having to purchase special meals or products. The Stop Dieting podcast is more than just about healthy and sustainable weight loss. You will also learn how you can have more energy, feel better, get rid of brain fog, and improve your overall health. Stay tuned for another informative and insightful episode. And if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and share this with your friends.
Hi, this is David Medansky. Welcome to another episode of Stop Dieting. Today we have a very special guest, Abbey Heagney. Did I pronounce it right?
You did, yes, Heagney.
Oh, great. Well, Abbey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself so the audience knows who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, David. I'm excited to be here and to chat with you. I'm Abbey Heagney, and I am a health and mindset coach. So I really help women get away from all of the shoulds out there and to really create healthy habits that work for them and their lifestyle so that they can live their healthiest, most confident life.
Excellent. Now, most of us all know what to do.
Yeah.
However, most of us don't do it. Do you have any explanation for why that is?
Yeah. What I find with my clients is there's so much information out there, right? There's every which way diet that's going to tell you to do this. And then the next diet tells you to do the opposite of that. And what I find is that they're just overwhelmed with a lot of the stuff out there that they don't even know where to start. And when they're overwhelmed and don't know where to start, they don't start. And so I really just try to boil it down for them. Like you said, we all know what to do. Those things are pretty basic, right? Eat nutritious foods. The majority of our diet, nutritious foods. I don't think you have to give up, some of your favorites or not eat the cake at the birthday party or anything like that. But you need to eat the majority of your diet, healthy, nutritious foods. The easiest way I think about that is eating the rainbow, right? I'm sure a lot of your audience has heard that, filling your plate with color and then balancing it out with the proper nutrients and moving your body in a way that you enjoy. I think, again, we can think that we have to go out for a run or we have to do this certain workout or we have to push ourselves really hard. And that's not always the case. Getting out for a walk and I'm a mom of two little ones. Sometimes all I can fit in is a walk with them while they're riding their bike. And so really just paring down that overwhelm to allow them to look at what can I do and what can I do today? Because today may be different than yesterday and it may be different from tomorrow, but just allowing them to see that the littlest steps are really is what's going to add up to those big gains that they want.
Exactly. Little steps done consistently for a long period of time.
Little by little equals a lot, right?
Yeah. And what I noticed in doing research for some of the books I've written is that the average person will attempt 126 different diets during their lifetime. So it's the weight loss and diet industries that have the philosophy of try until you die attitude.
Yeah. And what happens is a lot of the times we're doing all of the things without understanding why we're doing it for ourselves personally and what keeps us going versus what causes us to give up. Like a lot of what I see, when I first start working with people, we always have an initial consultation where I learn about them and what they want. And I always ask them, like, what have you tried? And to your point, they list off all of these diets that they've tried. And then it's like, okay, well, what worked about those things? And what I tend to find is that they work until they don't think it's working anymore. And then they give up on it. right? And that's where that sustainability piece comes in. So when I work with them, I really help them to believe in every step that they're taking and that every step is working. We get away from that all or nothing mentality. And I like to think of it as like all in on your commitment to be healthier. So that way, when you hit those days where it doesn't feel like it's working or it just feels harder, you're not giving up and then going to the next diet, right? You're just going to think about what can I do today? What is not working for me today that I can do differently tomorrow? But you're not giving up on yourself. You are committed to a healthier lifestyle, that you want for the reasons that you want it. Because again, that's going to be different for everybody too.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's lifestyle as opposed to diet, and people get confused because there's a difference between going on a diet and being on a diet, or changing your diet. So what I usually tell people is if you want to be healthier and lose weight, never go on a diet. Instead, change your diet.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like you said, there's a lot of confusion out there, especially on Amazon right now. There's over 50,000 books on weight loss, health, and nutrition, magazine articles at the grocery store checkout. And like you said, one expert will tell you one thing, another expert will tell you just the opposite, and a third expert will say the first two are both wrong. So as you mentioned, who or what do you believe and act on?
Yeah.
How did you get into the health and wellness?
Yeah, I would say similarly to how I work with my clients, it was little by little kind of led me here. I did not grow up with a great relationship with food. I've always been a littler person in terms of a shorter frame, a smaller body. I was in gymnastics when I was little, and my coach said to me one day, be careful about gaining weight because gymnasts need to be small. And I just took that, and that comment just stuck with me for a very long time. And I was very careful about the things that I ate, and I did all of the diety stuff, right? This was in the 90s, the early 2000s. It was no carbs, it was no fat, it was all of the things. I ran a lot, but I ran to burn off anything that I ate. It was just a very unhealthy relationship with food and with movement. But I didn't even realize that it was unhealthy. I thought I was a healthy person. I thought I was doing all of the things that I should be doing. I was not gaining the weight. And then I became pregnant with my son, who's now 8. And I remember thinking, like, I have to gain weight, or I will gain weight now. And that comment scared me on 2 fronts. One being I had lived for 20 years trying to not gain weight. And I wanted to gain weight because I wanted to have a healthy pregnancy. I wanted to have a healthy baby. And I realized then that it had to change. Like, I had to change what I had always thought and what I had always known. And then as I went through my pregnancy, it was a battle, but it was a mental battle. And I think that's where a lot of us, especially women who are very hard on ourselves often, that was the hardest thing for me to change. And I don't think that we need to be positive all of the time. I am naturally a positive person, but that doesn't prevent me from feeling the negative things and understanding the negative things. It's not sweeping it under the rug and putting a positive thought on it. It's really changing the way that you see your thoughts and being able to question them. And so as I learned to do this a little bit more, it kind of brought me closer and closer to where I want it to be. And then I came across health coaching, and I was like, I didn't even know this was a thing. I was like, wait a minute, there's somebody out there who, is not a dietitian, because I personally didn't feel like I needed a dietitian, right? Like, I knew the things that I needed to do. I needed more of the mindset change and that lifestyle change. And so as I explored health coaching a little bit more, it was like a light bulb went off in my mind. I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. And I had a career in global account management. I was, flying all over the world and working with my partners in all different countries and loved it until I realized that this was an option for me. And when I realized how much it really helps, again, I'm speaking to women because that's who I work with, but it helps men, of course, as well. But when I realized the impact that it really has on somebody, to have somebody there to question, like, what's really coming up for you? What's really important to you? What is it that you really want to be doing? And why would you want to give up when this thing that you want is right here? I just found it to be so impactful, and I haven't looked back.
That's terrific. I can relate to what you're saying. I have my own weight loss journey, so I understand that because of a health scare. The doctor told me, based on my lab results and being significantly overweight, I had a 95% chance for a fatal heart attack.
Wow.
So I had no choice. I was at age 61.
Wow.
I'm 67 now, and just last June I hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to you for getting that feedback and taking action on it. Because, again, some people would be like, well, it's too late. I'm this far along. It's hopeless or whatever. And then to completely turn it around and then do something so amazing as to hike that, like, that's incredible.
Thank you. And that was one of the things is my doctor told me, he says, you got two options, lose weight or find a new doctor because you're not going to die on my watch. And he strongly encouraged me to find a new doctor because he had been after me for 8 years to lose the weight. And I never did anything. Like most people procrastinated. Wait till Monday, after the holidays, after vacation, whatever excuse I can come up with, like most people do. The other thing I can relate to that you mentioned is that with weight, and a lot of times people make their New Year's resolution to go to the gym, eat healthier, and lose weight. And after about 2 or 3 weeks, the scale's not moving and they're getting frustrated. And so they stop because, well, it's not working. And again, they're not giving it enough time. The other thing is they're going and they're replacing the fat with muscle. And as you and I both know, muscle is denser than fat and takes up less room, because 5 pounds of fat is the same as 5 pounds of muscle as far as weight. So I had a client that happened to after 3 weeks. They were not seeing results. And I finally asked him, I said, are you exercising more? And he goes, yeah, I'm walking 5 miles a day and riding my bike. And I said, well, how do your clothes fit? He goes, oh, they're loose. In fact, people are asking me if I'm losing weight. He says, but the scale's not moving. I said, don't go by the scale. Clothes fit. So I know a lot of women that, I have clients too. And I tell them, don't worry about the scale. Tell me about your clothes.
Yeah. And we tap into how do they feel a lot, and it's those, to your point, it's those non-scale victories that are so telling, because the scale, if you're doing it right, is not going to move as quickly as you want it to move, right? That sustainable weight loss takes time, but that means you're doing it in a way that works for you, that doesn't feel like you're depriving yourself or, you have to cut out all of these things, but looking for those non-scale victories, like, again, for some of my clients is, are you able to keep up with your kids? Are you able to get up in the morning with energy? Are you able to get through the day with energy? How are you feeling? Are you feeling, even the slightest bit more confident when you put on a pair of jeans or go out and wear that dress or whatever it is, looking for those little wins. Because again, it's that little by little again, right? You focus on these little things, you're going to be like, oh yeah, you're right. So I always tell them, like, if you want to weigh yourself and you can get on that scale and not go down that negative spiral, by all means, go ahead, like, use it as a data point if that helps you. But if at any point it takes you down that negative path, it's just not worth it, because it's not telling the whole story, right? And I say that about food too. If any food makes you feel guilty mentally or physically, it's probably not the food for you.
Well, and if you don't like the taste of the food, because for example, Brussels sprouts or kale. I don't like it. I just don't eat it.
Right. I always say, I'm like, you can tell me to eat all the broccoli in the world to be healthy, and I'm going to tell you I'm not going to do it because broccoli just upsets my stomach. So yes, it's an amazingly powerful food. For me, small amounts of it.
Yeah, and talking about small amounts, a lot of people don't realize our portions have been supersized. Because in the 1900s, the average dinner plate was 9 inches in diameter. Today it's 12, and in restaurants it's 13 to 15 inches. Yet in Europe, it's still 9 inches. So usually what I advocate to my clients is use a salad plate instead of a dinner size plate.
Yeah, it can be so helpful to people, and slowing down. And I think, paying attention to what's happening around you. So often we use food to make us feel a certain way. But when we pay attention to who we're having dinner with, the conversations that are actually taking place, we get that fulfillment off of our plate. So we don't have to find it in the foods. And whether that's dinner or, throughout your day, a lot of my clients also are busy moms, and they don't have time. They don't have a lot of time for themselves, right? Like I always say, if your kid had a surprise soccer game, you probably find that time to get him to the soccer game, right? So I really truly believe that we can find the time if it's really important to us. But on the days where maybe it's not panning out, how can you find that fulfillment in your day that makes you at the end of the day feel like, wow, I feel really good. I feel like even though I didn't have time for myself, I'm fulfilled. I didn't, turn to the ice cream or turn to this to get that. You're really looking at how can I fuel myself on my plate with the things that make me feel good and give me the energy, but off of your plate as well.
Yeah, I agree with you because you use the word fuel, and people don't look at food as fuel for our bodies because our bodies are incredible machines.
Yeah.
And yet they'll treat their automobiles better than they treat themselves. They don't take care of, give it the right fuel. So, and I also agree with you. It's not so much about the weight as it is the health improvements. And that's what I usually ask people. Would you like more energy, feel better, have better mental clarity, especially for executives and busy professionals who I work with? They need that, mental clarity, more energy. And as you said, just getting down with the kids or grandkids, physically active. I know Rebel Wilson lost 77 pounds in 1 year simply by walking an hour each day. And Mindy Kalis lost weight. And what she did is when she had a 10-minute break, instead of being on social media or texting a friend, she'd go for a 10 or 15-minute walk. You do that 4 or 5 times a day, you break it up. So you're getting 40 or 50 or 60 minutes in instead of 1 hour at a time. So a lot of busy moms could do that too.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You need about half an hour a day of moderate movement. Like, again, we don't even need to go that high intensity. If you like to run or you like to, do whatever sort of workout that works for you, that's fine. But moderate walking, that's amazing for you. And you can break that 30 minutes down into 10-minute blocks. It is recommended you get 10 minutes at a time as much as you can. But some days, if you have to take an extra lap around your office building, there's ways that you can do it that work for you, that work for your lifestyle. You just have to seek it out. You have to be willing to seek it out and to make that a priority. But to those points, it doesn't take a lot. There's a lot of things that are undervalued, such as walking and doing something instead of picking up your phone and scrolling social media. Those things are created to suck your time, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Exactly. And Mark David wrote the Slow Down Diet book. And what he advocates in there is if you take 5 minutes for breakfast, give yourself 10. And at a minimum, give yourself a half an hour for lunch and a half an hour for dinner. And some people don't eat lunch and some people don't eat breakfast. It all depends. The whole idea is just take some time and enjoy the food. So a lot of us do what I call mindless eating. We're eating at our desk and we look and the sandwich is gone. People watching TV, the bag of chips or bag of cookies is gone. So where did it go? Well, you're focusing so much on the TV, you weren't focusing on what you're putting into your mouth.
And that's where, just getting a bowl out of the cabinet and plating your snacks, putting the chips in a bowl. And then that way, it's not to say that you may not go back and have more, but you got to think a little bit more about it. And, if you're sitting on the couch watching a movie, you might be like, I don't want to miss anything, so I'm not going to go back and have it. But there's little things that you can do to just be more mindful of it. And I think bringing that into it can really change so much for people and make it so much easier, right? Like it's again, breaking down that overwhelm and just focusing on one thing that you can do today.
That's awesome. Do you advocate for using declarations or affirmations to your clients?
We tap into a lot of mindset and what thoughts they're having. I like them to become aware of the most common thoughts that they have, which a lot of the times are negative, and then reframing them. I do think in terms of affirmations, I think they can be so powerful. I believe that you have to believe that you can't just say something that's like throwing it out there and you don't believe that that's even possible. I really think that you have to come up with something that feels believable to you that day, right? Or that moment. Otherwise, it's going to feel like wishful thinking. And that's a big part. One of the first things I do with my clients, even before we start working together, is working on their belief that it's possible for them, that even if they've tried all of those diets, like we talked about before, that it's still possible for them. And then to find that, some days that affirmation may simply be, I have a capable body, right? And you can use that to then get up and take your walk, or, maybe it's, I woke up today, or I have a body. Like, these little things can change a negative thought to a neutral thought. And that can be just as powerful as I've got this. Or,
Oh, absolutely. I know I was doing research for the books, as I mentioned. I learned that 80% of our thoughts are negative.
Yeah.
And just imagine if we turned that around, made 80% of our thoughts positive, how powerful that would be.
Yeah. And you have 70,000 thoughts a day or something like that.
Between 70 and 90,000 thoughts a day. And,
so that's a lot of negative thoughts.
And 90% of them are repeated the next day.
So crazy.
So it is, like you said, crazy. The other thing out there with the national brands, they're always advocating you lose 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds your first month guaranteed. And you may lose that much weight. However, it's not healthy. And number two, it's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. So usually what I ask people is, would you like to weigh 24 to 48 pounds lighter by this time next year? Mm-hmm. And most people say, well, yeah, if they need to lose the weight.
Yeah.
And so I usually ask, can you lose 2 to 4 pounds per month? Not a week, per month. And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, that's doable. Okay, if you do it on average, because some months you'll lose some weight, some you won't lose any. Mm-hmm. Can you do it for 12 consecutive months? And if you do, a year from now, you're 24 to 48 pounds lighter. The problem I run into, and maybe you have too, is that people want the immediate results because they see other people getting those quick results. Yeah. And as you and I both know, 90% of people who lose weight on a diet regain it within a year. Some gain even more. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I am with you. I think anything that has a time-stamped guarantee on it is very much a red flag. And I say that simply because we are all made up differently. Our bodies are completely different, and nobody knows how your body's going to respond to something. And to say that caveat of you can lose 30 pounds in a month or, whatever, that's an extreme example. It may not be possible for you because you may do everything that they're telling you to do and it just doesn't work, or you have incredibly low energy, and to your point, that's not sustainable. So there is a lot of marketing out there, and we do live in a world of instant gratification. Even if you send a text to somebody, you want them to respond right away. And then you have to remind yourself, well, they've got a life. They might be at work. They might be with their kids. But we want things to happen right away. And it's just not the healthiest way to do things. And if you think about your body works for you every day, it works so hard to keep you healthy and to, keep you from getting sick and to keep functioning and paying attention to everything that's coming your way. We have to allow that body to have the time that it needs.
Yeah. One of the stories I write about in my book, Break the Chains of Dieting, is the pot roast story. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No.
Very quickly, a lady is hosting a dinner party and she makes a pot roast. And one of the guests says, "This is delicious. Can I get the recipe?" And the host says, "Of course." So she writes it down. The guest looks it over and says, "Why do you cut the ends of the pot roast off?" And the host says, "I don't know. That's how my mom taught me." So the host calls her mom the next day and says, "Mom, why do we cut the ends of the pot roast off before we cook it?" And her mom says, "I don't know. That's how your grandmother taught me. Call your grandmother." So she calls her grandmother, and grandmother thinks for a minute and says, "Oh, when I was first married, the pot I had was too small, so I had to cut the ends of the pot roast off to make it fit." So a lot of times we eat a certain way or certain things because that's how we were taught, as opposed to questioning, why am I eating this, or why am I doing this a certain way? And so I find that very powerful.
Yeah. And I think that's so true especially in the world of social media, but even when you take social media out of it, your best friend could be doing a certain exercise and eating a certain way. And you look at her or him and it's like, I'm going to do exactly what they're doing and I'm going to lose that weight or I'm going to look like that. And then you do it and you don't see the change, or you don't end up looking the way they do or feeling as energized that they do, or you can't keep up with it. It just doesn't work for you. And to really have somebody there that can help you to realize what is working and what's not working can be so beneficial. It's like clearing out the sludge in your brain of like, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be doing anything except for what really feels good for us, and distinguishing what feels good to our bodies versus what we think feels good, right? Because a lot of people will be like, well, eating that sleeve of cookies feels really good. But when you really break it down, or they start eating a different way, they realize how bad that actually made them feel, that they can have one cookie and feel so much better. They don't need the whole sleeve of them. And maybe they don't even want that cookie every day, because when you start eating healthier foods, you tend to want more healthier foods, but you got to give it the time.
Exactly. I had a client that she stopped drinking Coke and sodas. And after 6 months, she was craving one. So she went through the McDonald's drive-thru and got a soda, and she said it tasted bad, so she didn't like it. So then she went to the Quick Mart and got a can of soda and thought, because the McDonald's was bad soda, so she tried it and she said that tasted bad. And then she realized it wasn't the soda, it was her taste buds that had changed.
Yeah.
She no longer enjoyed it. So that's one thing, like you mentioned, you start craving the healthier stuff and not the stuff that's bad for you. And as you know, with women, they're different than men, and a lot of times it could be something with their hormones, their thyroid, or other issues. And you're right. You shouldn't compare yourself to someone else, because you can get different results. We have different body chemistry, different blood types, different metabolism, and we have different preferences. As you know, some people like meat, some don't. Some like fish, some don't. Some like dairy, some don't. So you have to find that balance of what you like that's healthy for you. And what one person may think is healthy, the other person may think is unhealthy, and vice versa.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's really finding what works for you, but you have to pay attention too. That's where that mindfulness comes into it. And then wanting to do it because of the way that it makes you feel, right? Reinforcing that. So that way, when you do hit your goal weight, it's not like, okay, well, now I'm here. It's really making these changes and realizing like, hey, when I do this, I feel this way. And this is the way that I want to feel. And then just going back
to size or pant size.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's terrific. Do you do much with teaching people how to read a nutrition fact panel or label?
I help them to become aware of the different nutrients and what they should be looking for. focusing more so on the balance of it. The way I like to look at it, just for an easy visual, is again that rainbow. Like, can you add color to your plate? I personally always start with the color. I always start with, what vegetables are we going to have with this meal, or what fruits are we going to have, or whatever. And then I add on the protein, whether that is a meat-based protein or a plant-based protein, and some whole grains. So it kind of balances it out. But my personal go-to, just because that's the way that my body responds really well to a lot of plant-based fiber, I always start with the color. But I think in terms of labels, it's really being aware of what you're looking at when you look at that, and being aware of the serving size, and really how much is that serving size that's giving you, the protein in there, and the added sugars and the fiber, and the things that are going to be important for you to be aware of.
Yeah. And that's where you and I may differ a little bit. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But I usually tell people when they read the label, I ask them, what do you look at? And of course, it's the calories, the serving size, the proteins, the grams of fat and sugar. And in my opinion, for what it's worth, they fail to look at the most important thing. And that's the ingredients, very small fine print at the bottom. Because if we saw the chemicals that we were putting into our body, most of us probably wouldn't either purchase it or even eat it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that's important to be aware of. What I find with not all of my clients, we do try to get to more whole foods, but sometimes those packaged foods are going to be what helps them to eat healthiest for the longer period of time, because they're getting their kids off to, practice and that sort of thing, and grabbing this one thing that's going to be able to be half of a dinner, and then they can add on veggies, just makes life a little bit easier. But I do agree that being aware of that and trying to minimize that is super helpful to our bodies.
Yeah. And I'm like you, I'm not a food purist.
Mm-hmm.
A piece of chocolate cake or pumpkin pie or pecan pie or a chocolate cookie every once in a while. The difference being, it's once in a while, and instead of eating the full slice, I get a sliver, or that satisfies my craving, and I get the enjoyment of it. And like you mentioned at the beginning, it's okay to enjoy the birthday cake or wedding cake or whatever is being celebrated. A little bit won't hurt. Moderation.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to take all the fun away.
Exactly. You got to enjoy life a little bit. So what's the best way for people to reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram. My Instagram is Wellness with Abbey H. Abbey is with an EY, and my website is wellnesswithabbeyh.com.
So what is the website again?
Wellnesswithabbeyh.com.
Awesome. And is there any one final advice you can give to the audience before we end the episode?
My biggest takeaway, and I know I've said it a number of times through our chat today, is really just looking at what is one thing that I can do today that's going to move me one step closer to where I want to be. Because I firmly believe that if your feet are always pointed in the direction that you want to head, whether you take that step today or not, you will get there. That little step will get you one step closer. We don't need these gigantic leaps. So just focusing on those little things, it really does pay off. That little by little really does add up to a lot. And, if anybody does need help with this, or if that resonated with anybody, I do offer free 60-minute consultations to really look at where are their feet headed, where do they want to be headed, and what's been holding them back right now, that we got to break through those barriers, because it really is possible. And I think you're a great example of what's possible for people when you decide that this is a change that you want to make.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Most people may not realize that when I was younger, in my 20s and 30s, I was fit and healthy and active. However, as we know, life gets in the way, especially with family obligations and children, and then with work responsibilities. And before we know it, for me, the weight crept up on me. And it's 5 pounds this year and 5 pounds the next year. And after 10 years, you're up 50 pounds without even realizing it. And so that's why I want to help other people become aware of how they can avoid that and still maintain it at the same time.
Yeah.
Has there been any books that or authors that have influenced you?
I love the ones I have always on the side of my desk are Atomic Habits. I think that's a fabulous book of like really, again, thinking about the little things that you can do. And then from a nutrition standpoint, I really like Fiber Fueled. I think that's something that really points to that whole foods type of eating, but really highlights the importance of getting a variety of plants into your diet and why that's so important and supporting a healthy gut. I know that we can be very focused on protein in the US here, and protein, don't get me wrong, it's very important and that's going to help to keep you fuller for longer. But I think with that focus, we often underestimate the plants and the power of plants. So,
I'm with you 100%. Number one, I have both of those books and I've read them, so they're both excellent books. The other thing is what I read and heard recently is that 95 to 97% of the U.S. population is deficient in their daily fiber intake.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind away.
Yeah, I think most people get like half the amount of fiber a day. Yeah. So adding in more plants and more diversity of plants. Again, it doesn't have to be a hard thing to do, but, just adding that little focus into your day of like, okay, well, what can I add to this? Do I have color on my plate? And if you have one color, maybe you can add another color. And
what I do as a little tip for the audience is I add in black chia seeds.
Yes.
Or to my oatmeal or hemp.
Yep.
And so that is an excellent way to get more fiber into your diet without having to do much of anything.
Yeah, I love that too. I have, I actually think it's on my website. There's a triple seed oatmeal recipe, which is flax, hemp, and chia seeds and oatmeal. And it's fabulous. And it gives you all of the, omega-3s and the antioxidants and the protein. Yeah. It's really good.
Throw in chopped walnuts to give it a little crunch.
Yeah, sounds good.
The other thing is a lot of people may not realize it, but 75% of the U.S. adult population is chronically dehydrated. So we don't drink enough water. Our bodies, as you know, are 60 to 70% water, not soda or diet soda or fruit juices or fruit flavored beverages. And I believe, in my opinion, it's a direct correlation to 72% of the U.S. adult population being overweight, and which 42% are clinically obese. So I advocate people drinking a lot of pure water. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I think water before anything. I am a coffee drinker. I like a cup of coffee in the morning, but I always have a glass or two of water first, usually more. I work out in the morning, so I usually get a full water bottle in. But I think if you can start your day with a glass or two of water, you're already setting yourself up for success. And then just carrying a water bottle around with you can be really helpful. Have one in your car or at your desk and remember to use it. But it's one of those things. It's similar to food. I think the more water that you have, the more water your body's going to want. And so, it's just like when the more healthy foods you have, the more healthy foods your body's going to want. You just have to allow yourself to get into that habit. And I actually just sent a newsletter out to my email list about this today. Like, you have to go through the hard before it gets easy. And when you do, it will get easier. Those things that once felt hard will just become a part of who you are and what you do. But you have to get through the hard in order for it to become easy. And I don't think any of us really set out thinking it's all going to be easy, right? It's when you become a parent, you're not like, this is going to be easy, right? Like, it's going to be hard, but you're willing to do it. And I think what is more beneficial than your health?
Exactly. Like you said, it's a new habit. It's like brushing your teeth and not thinking about it. You just, and I'm with you. I'm a coffee drinker, so I drink my coffee black. However, first thing I do in the morning is have a 20-ounce glass of water. In my coffee. And so I agree with you. And a lot of times people may think they're hungry when they're actually thirsty.
Yeah, absolutely. Go with the water. And then if you're hungry, have something to eat. But, recognizing, are you hungry? Are you bored? Or are you stressed? And if you're hungry, find something to eat that's going to be balanced, that's going to fill you up, but also recognize maybe you're just stressed. And then when you're just stressed, what do you really need? You might just need a short walk. You might need some deep breaths, but you have to bring that awareness and learn how to distinguish those things.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and advice with us today. It's been a pleasure to have you as a guest, Abbey. I really appreciate it. So if you're interested, go to wellnesswithabby.com.
Wellness with Abbey H. Yeah, there's an H on the end. Yeah.
And check out the website. And it's been a pleasure. And thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been lovely to talk with you.
Thanks for listening to the Stop Dieting podcast. Remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss a single episode to get more healthy eating and lifestyle tips. Motivate and inspire others to be healthy by sharing with your friends.